Hey friends, hey civilian friends, hey my therapist friends, and welcome my ADHD warriors. I'm back with Mindful Chatting, and today we're going to talk about something that really hits close to home for me. This episode is for every woman who's ever said the following things. I'm just anxious. I'm overwhelmed all the time. I can't relax and I don't know why. But what if I told you it might not be anxiety, like you've been told your whole life? What if it's your ADHD, and it's just wearing a very convincing mask? So let's grab your comfort drink, and let's talk about this. All right, I'm ready. Are you? Because let's talk about how ADHD in women doesn't actually look like what you think it does. Because when most people think of ADHD, they picture that classic image. A hyper little white boy bouncing around a classroom, interrupting the teacher, tapping his pencil, and forgetting to turn in his homework. What they don't picture is a grown-ass woman trying to manage a career, kids, laundry, carpool, if there's even any, 3 calendars, and a nervous breakdown, while wondering why she feels like she is failing at absolutely everything. And yet that woman, she's got ADHD. The thing is, ADHD in women doesn't usually look like that physical hyperactivity that the DSM talks about. It looks like a million racing thoughts and mental tabs open all at one time, a calendar so full you're breathless by noon. You're over-preparing for things that don't even really need preparation. And you're constantly overwhelmed, guilty, and just struggling with this emotional fatigue. But we don't call that ADHD. We call it anxiety. We call it being emotional. We call it being too much. We call it being just doing too much. But what we're actually seeing is this internal distraction, this cognitive hyperactivity. And damn, it's just freaking exhausting. Let me play this out for anybody who's thinking that maybe they don't have this and see if this relates to you. So here's what happens. Our internal distraction creates this nonstop mental swirl of ideas and reminders and fears and what ifs and all of our responsibilities and obligations, and they're all competing for attention in our head. And that mental chaos triggers this nervous system response. It almost looks like a trauma response. And suddenly you feel restless, agitated, overstimulated, like there's always something you're forgetting or falling behind on. So we slap the label of anxiety on it, but that sense of urgency that you're feeling, that everything needs to be done right now, or probably actually yesterday, and you're feeling this sense of I can't do it fast enough, and there's so much to do, and I don't have any mental energy left to do it, but somehow I need to figure it out. That's actually not anxiety. That's ADHD. That emotional flooding, when a small task becomes a mountain, that's ADHD. And that panic that you're not doing enough, even when you're drowning in all of this effort, that's ADHD. And we've been treating it with breathing exercises and anxiety meds. It's crazy. When we actually needed was someone to say, hey, your brain's wired differently. Let's work with that instead. And I'm a late diagnosed ADHD woman. I was not diagnosed until I was 36 because I was having 2 kids and I was why the heck can't I figure this out? And I thought it was just long decades worth of anxiety. And then when I finally was able to dissect the DSM and figure out that it wasn't anxiety and it was actually ADHD, as much as that was scary and sad because I had been misdiagnosed for so long and I could have gotten help and accommodations for my life to make things a whole lot easier, it was actually quite validating that my brain was different and the way I think is different. And here I was thinking that something was wrong with me when really I'm just different. And I just learned to start to accept the fact that I am going to think differently, but that doesn't mean anything's wrong with me. I want to talk about this research and like the diagnostic criteria that were built around, well, not women and definitely not girls. The DSM description is based on boys, white, elementary aged boys. And because we've spent our lives masking, and masking is like being good girls, those high achievers, those helpers, our symptoms were overlooked and misread because our symptoms actually looked like daydreaming. It looked like forgetfulness, but we were socially acceptable in the situation. We were able to mask what was needed in social situations to meet everyone else's needs, but had no idea on how to meet ours. And so it can kind of look like this in a girl sense of we didn't necessarily have tantrums like the boys did. We had meltdowns, but our meltdowns were actually behind closed doors because it wasn't safe. Nobody understood what we were going through, and we were told to internalize it, keep it to ourselves. If we weren't disruptive, we were over-preparing and overthinking ourselves into burnout because we kept getting into these social situations of being forgetful and not remembering everything. And because we're so hyper attuned socially compared to boys, we recognized that we were actually getting ourselves in trouble and people were not wanting to like us and hang out with us. And so if we over-prepared and overthought everything, maybe we could avoid that feeling because that feeling was hard. That feeling was really shameful. And if we weren't inattentive, we were so hyper aware of everything that we couldn't focus on anything. And then we would disassociate to get a mental break by daydreaming. And then we're not paying attention. We're missing everything in our class. This is what ADHD girls look like. And this is why they're so underdiagnosed compared to ADHD boys. And on top of that, we're almost gaslit in that we're praised for being responsible. Meanwhile, we're like imploding. And because no one saw it, we blamed ourselves. We weren't just not doing enough. And then if we weren't doing enough, we were labeled lazy or we weren't trying hard enough. So now let's name ADHD for what it is for women. So it actually feels like this. It's hiding in plain sight for you. You feel overwhelmed, but like pretty much all the time, even with things that you know what to do and how to do them, it still feels overwhelming. You're constantly worried you're forgetting something, because usually you are, and you may write down everything that you need to do, or you might write down everything that you need to forget, but you still have this sense that you're missing something. You struggle to finish anything because your brain is already 5 tasks ahead of you. You're excited about starting something new, and that excitement just completely dissipates because something else grabbed your attention, whether it's something you actually wanted to grab your attention because it's interesting, or obligations and responsibilities became the main focus and you abandoned the thing that was exciting for you because you had to. You try to plan, but the plan falls apart and now you're panicking. And because planning for a neurodivergent person doesn't look the same for neurotypical people. You look put together, but inside you're spiraling out. You're just really good at showing people what they want to see. And because that spiral mimics anxiety, you've been calling it anxiety. Your doctor probably called it anxiety. Your therapist may have even called it anxiety. But what it actually is, it's executive dysfunction. It's emotional dysregulation. It's ADHD. So before you go and download another breathing app thinking that it's going to help you, let's step back. Because what we really actually need is a support system that's designed for your ADHD brain. And that support system actually isn't people. I hate to say it. It's actually visual cues. It's planning that includes time blocking. It's brain dumps. It's flexibility. And our support system needs to reflect our mind and how we work instead of our mind adapting to a system that's really not made for our brains. We need compassion for like days when we just can't, because the burnout of ADHD is totally crazy, and we self-abandon when we get in that burnout state. And so compassion looks like, yeah, anybody going through my bullshit would feel exactly the way they are, exactly of like why I want to ghost and I want to lay in bed all day, but I can't. And we need to have the language that validates our experience instead of gaslighting it. And we're really good self-gaslighters, right? We're really good at saying to ourselves that we're okay, or it's all going to get done, we'll be fine. But that really invalidates my experience of that I feel so overwhelmed that I don't know if I can do it. And that's where my compassion comes in. You're right. You don't know if you can do it. But you're going to do the best that you can with what you have, and that's going to be enough for you right now. And if it's not, you'll figure it out. We need a reframe. This isn't a personal flaw in us. It's actually a neurological difference. We need to start accepting that our brain works different from everybody else. And that's okay. We are not flawed because of it. And to be honest, we need each other. We need to share this. We need to talk about it. We need to normalize it. We need to stop whispering about it in private and start saying, oh, this is me too. I see myself in that. And for anyone else who's listening out there who doesn't necessarily believe that there's ADHD, I want you to recognize that we need to talk about this. Women are so good at masking and hiding things, and we may talk about it with other women, but we need to normalize that this isn't a crutch. This is something that we need to adapt and figure ourselves out. As women, we need to self-reflect and understand about us so that we can be better for ourselves, so that we can meet all of the demands of life, being the best version of who we are at that moment, and that be enough. If anything I said today made you pause, made your chest tighten, made you tear up, I want you to know that you're not crazy. You're not weak, you're not failing, and you're definitely not broken. We've just been trying to live in a system that wasn't built for us. And now that you know, you get to choose something different. And that's empowering. We get to choose what that life looks like for us. We can always start over and try again. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If this episode resonated with you, I want you to please share it with another strong woman in your life. I want you to tag it, DM it. Let's stop calling our ADHD anxiety and start calling it what it is, so we can finally give ourselves that grace and support we actually deserve. And remember, just because you've been managing doesn't mean that you've been okay. It's okay to want more than survival. It's okay to rest. It's okay to unmask. You are not alone. You're not broken. You're just wired differently. And that's not a flaw. It's a fact. Thanks for being here with me. I'll see you next time on Mindful Chatting.